in the end, if Conor is that same guy that came into the cage in his last fight against Dustin and his style is similar to that guy, he's going to have problems again. Now, he can win the fight, especially in the first round, but if he continues with that heavy, forward motion, big, lot of weight on the front leg and a boxing approach, he's going to have problems with Dustin Poirier, and he's got to figure out that low leg kick, because if he doesn't, he's going to end up in the same position of now he's being compromised. He doesn't have a base that takes away a lot of his power. All these things add up in the fight. And so really it's, can Conor come back and be the Conor of, I want to say old, but the Conor of the past, where he uses that, in and out motion. He's light on his front foot for the most part. He uses a more bladed stance. He uses the kicks that he was not using in that second fight. All of that is what really matters here, because if you look at the odds, Dustin's a little bit of a favorite. He's minus 125 compared to a minus 105 for Conor, but it's basically a pick 'em fight. You're going with the person you think. The odds in this, as far as your thought process on who you're going to bet on, has nothing to do with it. This is, I think Conor's going to win, or I think Dustin's going to win.
Yeah, GSP came out and said that he thought that Conor was good in rematches, and this is, in the terms of a trilogy type fight. I want to remind everyone, okay, I'm going to give you a full breakdown as quick as I possibly can. The reason why this fight is so effective, or is so interesting in terms of styles, is they're both southpaw. And that's what made that low calf kick so effective. Had one of them been a conventional fighter, being right-handed, then the inside, it would be more of the lead leg doing the damage to the calf, and it's not as effective with as much power. Now, the reason why I think that Conor has a great chance of winning this rematch, it's not because he's mobile and because I think he's got to do all that regardless. He's got to go back to the movement. But what he also has got to do is he's got to go back to him kicking the calf himself. Like he said in the first fight, he didn't realize the effect of that calf kick because he really hasn't been fighting during the time the calf kick is just taken off and taken over the sport. And so now if he wants to go out there, I believe that he's got faster and harder kicks than Dustin Poirier. So if he goes out there right off and sets the precedent that he kicks first, whether right to the calf or not, to the leg or the calf, I think you could see Dustin being the one that is taking the more damage on that lead leg. Dustin was the one that knew that if I got to his lead leg first, it would slow his movement down and make him easier to punch, and that's exactly what happened in the second fight. Now, if Conor goes out and does the same thing, he moves in and out, avoids the shots, because he will not be able to, no matter how great a shape he's in. He's proven in the past, whether it was Nate Diaz or anybody else he's fought, his movement slows down significantly, probably around rounds 2.5 and 3. He slows down. So to think that he could stay moving and avoiding those calf kicks for 5 rounds it's not going to happen. Okay, no matter how good people say he is, which he is, he's phenomenal. I just don't think he's going to be able to do that for 5 rounds. Now, for 2.5, 3 rounds, he can cause enough damage to Dustin's calf, okay, as well as avoiding the damage to his. But as they both slow down, it's going to come down to who kicks the hardest. And I think right now it's going to be Conor McGregor if he gets back on that track, if he was back on track during his camp of letting the leg kicks go. Because to me, he's faster than Dustin. I feel like he's got a little bit more power in the kicks than Dustin. But can he get there and get out before getting kicked? Because now when someone would do something to me when I would fight, they would do it to me, and it hurt. I would try to do it back to them to let them know, like, hey, don't do that to me anymore. Because it works in training, it works in sparring as well. Hey, you kick me hard, I'm gonna kick you hard. You punch me hard, like there's just you hit me to the body, I'm gonna hit you to the body. So it makes them a little bit more hesitant to throw it again. Okay, now you're on to me. You know what I mean? So I think for Conor, if he comes out, sticks with the movement, stays long with the jab. The problem with being long with the jab and being both southpaw, when you jab in, he's going to be able to kick that leg. So that's the other issue. And so he needs to mix it up a little bit. Go to the calf kick, go to the inside leg, and use that tip kick to keep Dustin away. If he does that, he should have a pretty successful night. I just think the longer the fight goes, I think it favors Dustin Poirier.
No doubt about it.
He's just durable.
This is one of those fights where you look, go back to the Dan Hooker fight. When Dustin had that fight with Dan Hooker, it was a fantastic fight, but Dustin took a ton of punishment in the first 2 rounds, came on and won those last 3 rounds and was putting it on Dan at the end. That's the durability that he has, that you look at Conor. Conor's a tough dude. I'm not saying anything, but he slows down considerably in the fight. So if you're looking at this and if the fight ends early, in the first round, you got to look and say it's got to be Conor.
What's the over-under, John?
Over-under on it, my God, what is that? 150, minus 150 on the under of 1.5. And then minus 180 on the over of 1.5.
Plus 150.
I'm sorry, plus 150. I screwed up.
All right, so plus 150 on the over?
On the under. No, you only get a round and a half at plus 150 and then minus 180 and anything over that. So
got it.
I honestly think it's going to go over it. I honestly think it's going to go into the second half of the second round, third round. I don't know if it's going to go into the championship rounds.
Wow. Okay, John. Let's have this conversation then. Who are you leaning towards? Because it may change between now and next time we do our show.
And I'm not.
You're a flip flopper, so I know you're a flip flopper.
I'm not leaning towards either guy. I know both guys can win this fight. Both guys are outstanding, and I've said, like we said on the last show, Dustin Poirier, in my opinion, has been the best lightweight in the world, for the last year and a half. Now, he hasn't fought Charles Oliveira, so there is that, question because Charles has been fantastic too. I don't want to take anything away from him, but you'll just look at the lineup of people that Dustin has been fighting. He's been fantastic. So him and Charles, no doubt, are the two best lightweights as far as activity and wins. There is. Since Dustin moved up, we were talking about it before, since he moved up to lightweight from being that featherweight that I thought he was cutting too much weight, he's really got that one loss. He had the two fights with Eddie and we talked about and all that stuff, but he had the one loss against Khabib. Other than that, man, look at the people he ran through. I mean, Anthony Pettis and Justin Gaethje, and like I said, Eddie Alvarez, Max Holloway, then Dan Hooker, then Conor McGregor. He's been phenomenal. So he's as good as any lightweight in the world when you're looking at what he's been doing in the last 3-4 years. He's been phenomenal, and he's durable. He took big shots in that second Conor fight, and
the Hooker fight, he took some big shots.
And the big thing about him when you're watching him fight, it's not that he's getting hit. It's his reaction to being hit. He used to get mad, come forward, and start to wing shots, trying to get it back. Now he gets hit, he steps out, he circles through, and now he comes back, resets, and let's do this again, and let me see what I can land. He doesn't get mad. He doesn't sit there and go, I have to get this back right now. He knows that it's okay, I'm going to get mine. And he's just fighting just way smarter than he did, when he was a little bit younger, and it's just he's matured as a fighter. He's a smarter fighter. He's more dangerous by far, now at this age than he was, 6 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
And I look at what he brings to this. Yes, anybody can be put out, and Conor he's got great timing. He understands control of distance, and he's got power in his hands, and he can put any lightweight there is. I think that, I'm not sure with one shot, but obviously with, multitudes and volume, he can put anybody out, and he could do that to Dustin, but I just don't see it happening. And I think as the fight goes on, the fight goes towards Dustin Poirier. I think it starts out, it definitely in the first round, it favors Conor. It favors what Conor does. It favors a lot of things that, go in his, side with the attributes of the speed and the timing. But as the fight starts to progress, I think the fight starts to lean towards Dustin. So it's really the question of, do you believe that Dustin's going to be able to pull that fight into the second, third round? Now you have the ability to look at Conor's skill set just starting to slow down, and that becomes the problem for him. When he's able to control the distance and timing, and people can go back and say, well, you went 5 rounds with Nate Diaz. Yes, he did. He looked fantastic. But I want you to go back and think about it. When he was controlling the pace and location of the fight like he did in the first and second round, he was doing great. And when he wasn't able to, and someone was able to press him like in the third round, you saw him starting to have problems with cardio, because he's a fast twitch muscle fiber athlete. It's not that he's not in shape. He's in shape, but it tends to, slope off into that, that cliff that starts to fall apart, and he needs that time to get things back. He was able to do that with Nate, but it was all about who was able to control the pace of the fight. If he can't control the pace of the fight with Dustin, it's going to be, lights out somewhere in that second and a half to third, maybe even fourth round. But I don't know. It's both guys can win, so that's what makes it fun.
No, I would agree with you. In terms of the longer the fight goes, I think it favors Dustin. I think the reason why it makes it easy for me to make that decision is because if you look at the Dan Hooker fight, Dan Hooker's long, he's lanky, and he was getting pieced up. Dustin was in the first couple rounds. But then, like you said, he's matured as a fighter. He's now, really taken into consideration what Mike Brown's done for him, the ATT group and coaches have done for him. He really just plots forward now and it systematically just starts picking you apart. And that's what happened in that fight with Dan Hooker. He realized that the game plan that he was running with wasn't working. He needed to put a little bit more pressure, start ripping the body. And once he started doing that, he started having success with everything else landing. I feel like he is now, like you said, mature enough to make those adjustments as the fight goes on instead of just biting his mouthpiece and going, I'm going to take your head off. And that is just that's fight IQ. That's just listening to your coaches and your corners, and the ones that have helped get you there. And he's a smart kid. He's a very smart young man. He understands how this game works. I mean, he's been around all the, some of the best fighters in the world since, before when he was still fighting at 145. But the one thing that I feel is very important is his durability. It's changed. Before, he was getting touched at the 145, he was getting in trouble sometimes, and he's a stud, man. He's a stud. He's got a chin. He's got a great chin. But I just think the weight cut itself was way too much. And I've told this story, I don't know how many times, but I met him when I trained with Frankie Edgar for the second Benson Henderson fight. And he was up in New Jersey in Toms River, and we were training together. And I was like looking at him going, how in the do you make 145? This kid was enormous. He's like 182, 184, whatever when I met him. I'm like, there's no way you make 145. And he was huge. And so I concede now at 155, he's just having such a successful career because he is durable. And we've seen in the past fighters that have cut too much weight and the durability goes down, a la, TJ Dillashaw. He got pieced up, touched up a little bit, and it's because, he sucked himself down to nothing, and that's kind of a crappy situation, when you see fighters that they've grown up, losing weight, cutting weight for wrestling, whatever it is, they think they can just keep doing it. But as you get a little bit older, and then you got to remember, in wrestling, you're not getting clubbed in the head, you're not getting kicked in the, like your brain needs fluid in there to operate, properly. And so I'm glad that he went up to 55. I think his durability is going to play a factor, especially as this fight gets into the fourth and the fifth round. I think it's going to go 3.5 to 4. I think Conor's movement will get that thing at least into the third round. His movement, like I said, if he stamps his name on the push kick, the toe kick to the body, like he'd like to use against Chad Mendez and other fighters, that'll keep Dustin at bay. No flashiness. You don't need to do the spinning shit, make yourself more tired, because Dustin will be there in the fourth and the fifth round. I get it if you want to throw one, but he tends to sometimes overthrow them as he gets desperate a little bit. And so he needs to make sure he doesn't do that. I think the toe kick to the body will keep the distance, so that'll take away that calf kick as well. And then I think he needs to set precedent that he can calf kick Dustin as well and make it hurt. If he does that right off the bat, he goes to the calf on Dustin. Dustin may be a little hesitant to start kicking himself, because Dustin's had some problems as well with the calf kick. I'm trying to remember who he fought when it happened.
Justin Gaethje.
Yeah, I'll say he was having a hard time. He was struggling. He was kind of switching stance a little bit as well. Don't get me wrong, he made the adjustments. And Justin Gaethje, I think, kicks probably harder than Conor does. From what everyone tells me, I haven't been kicked by either one of them, but everyone tells me that Justin Gaethje's got fucking donkey kicks. So I would believe that Dustin will be able to take at least, a good 4 or 5, depending on the mark and the position of the kick. But I think Conor's got to set the tempo right off the bat. I'm going to kick you in the calf first because I'm a little bit faster and fresh right now. And as the fight goes on, hopefully you'll stop kicking me because I'll kick you back, kind of situation. They end up boxing, and you go to the toe kick to keep it distant.
I'll kick you back.
That's really what it comes down to, though, John. I think fighters, they look at each other and they think, You know, if you do it to me, I'm gonna do it to you, and you know, hopefully you'll stop doing it. Doesn't always work that way, but you know, it lets him know, like when you kick me hard, whether it's a toe kick or you know a tip kick or whatever it is, you know, I'm gonna try to do the same thing back. And if I land it clean, you're gonna be like, oh, okay. If I do it again, he's gonna do it again. I don't know if I can take another one of those. And so it's like you said, it's a toss-up fight. I believe it's a toss-up fight. It's a 50-50 fight. It really comes down to who can implement their game plan. I'm just pumped to watch it, cover it, do all the things that we're going to do. It's going to be a great fight. I think it's going to be Conor before 3 rounds, and it's going to be Dustin after 3 rounds.
100% agree. Okay.